Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? I hope that you are doing well. My name is Julie Turney, and I am your host of Magnifying HR Voices. And we are here today to get down and have a very serious and important conversation, but to get to know one of my favorite people on LinkedIn right now. But honestly, our journey started before LinkedIn. Like the moment I found Shereen Daniels on YouTube at first. That's where my journey started, following her, listening to her. And I am so excited just to have her here. One of the things I said to her just now was just remember when you're thinking about your day oneers, please remember me. I caught you 5 videos in on YouTube. So we're going to have an amazing conversation today. I really believe, what is your story when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, but also racial inequity, because that's a bigger topic, a bigger conversation. And we're going to have that today. So I'm going to bring Shereen up to the stage. Here we go. Hi,
Hello,
Shereen. Hello. How are you?
I'm very well. It's so nice to be like the interviewee.
Yes.
This is like I'm
You get to
drinking.
be
Look,
the
I'm drinking my
guest.
hot water. Yeah, it's really nice. Hello.
This is your jam. So like, it's really great to have you be here today, being my guest, to have this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. So I'm going to do something that you do on your show. Just I'm going to disappear off the screen for a bit.
Oh no, I hate that.
And I'm going to look, see, now you're on the reverse of it.
I know. I don't do it often, to be fair. I should do.
I'm going to disappear for a bit so you can tell everyone a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do for those who don't know you. And please tell us, everyone, where you are joining us from, because I'm sure Shereen wants to know where we're all coming in from. But I know we always have a very vast audience, but I know a lot of our audience is from the Caribbean. So,
yes.
Introduce yourself, my friend.
Oh goodness. Well, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining me with Julie. So I'm very honoured to be on her show, and it's a nice surprise actually. It's a nice, pleasant surprise to be on somebody else's platform rather than my own. My origin story. So, well, firstly, I'm the mum of 2 children, a 13-year-old and a 3-year-old. If you hear heavy footsteps and shouting, my 3-year-old is currently having a tantrum. So you'll see me strategically mute at certain points because she's literally in dinosaur phase. So she communicates through dinosaur noises at the moment. I don't know what it is. So that's just her thing. So my background is HR. Collectively, I've been in HR for almost 20 years. And left the corporate world in 2019 after I had my second daughter, and thought I was going to do, the typical thing that, you become a HR consultant, don't you? So you become a HR consultant, set up my own company. Like I had no plans. And to be fair, in the first 6 months, I think I had all of 1.5 clients. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't by any means a success story. But after a succession of events, whether it was Breonna Taylor, then George Floyd, and then the video of Amy Cooper in Central Park last year, basically forced me to use my voice in a way that I had never done so before. I had spent up to that point about 17 years or so in the corporate world trying to not be the Black woman who brings race into conversations, trying not to be the one who brings any issues, whether it's about how I've been treated or how other people have been treated, always turn the other cheek, always head down. Went from one organization to another, out of the frying pan into the fire, as the saying goes, always trying to progress and be better and hope that every organization I went to was going to be that bit different, that my voice was going to be heard, that I would get the same opportunities, that I would be paid the same as everybody else who was doing similar roles. And unfortunately, I left disillusioned, burnt out, and actually internalizing a lot of things that didn't happen, despite the fact, I've got 2 degrees, I've got this qualification, that qualification. So did all the things that technically you should do to tick a box. So when I saw the video of Amy Cooper, I thought to myself in that moment, where has my silence got me? Where has our silence got us as Black people, African diaspora people? My heritage is the Caribbean. I was just telling Julie before we went live. Where has our silence got us? And I had to say to myself, where has my silence got me? Because I've spent 17 years not wanting to talk about it, but in not wanting to talk about it, have I perpetuated a belief, a myth that the UK doesn't have a problem with racism? And so all of these things were bubbling up inside of me. And I thought, I'm just going to record a video. I wasn't known for video. I think I did one 2-minute video a week. Nothing, all on HRE stuff, remote working, whatever. So nothing extensive. But I sat down in my bedroom and recorded a 20-minute video. That became 1 video, became 10 videos, became 50, became 100, became 200 nearly. Had my story featured in Forbes, became one of LinkedIn's top voices, which is a miracle considering I talk about racism every day and spend half of my time blocking people. So, and I just, through all of that time, it was just this recognition that if we are going to do better by Black colleagues, by global majority colleagues within the workplace, we have to confront some of these biggest taboos that we don't like talking about, and race and racism is one of them. I also made a conscious decision because I was saying to Julie before, I was so vexed. If you watch my earlier videos, you can see I was so annoyed. I was annoyed with myself. I was annoyed with the world. And I just thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this my way. So I'm going to say what I've got to say. If I feel like we need to be talking about white supremacy, if I feel like we need to be talking about accountability, responsibility, me as an individual, us as, members of the African diaspora, us as a global majority community, us as advocates, allies, us as leaders, then we need to call it what it is. And we can't hide behind softness and and being genteel about it to protect the sensibilities of white people, because I recognized that I had centered white people. I was so conscious of not being accepted by them and not feeling part of these teams where I was pretty much the only Black one by one business, that there was lots and lots of diverse people, if we're going to use that term. And still here over a year later. And I guess I'm still here because my purpose isn't, about making leaders feel necessarily comfortable, or HR teams, patting them nicely and going there, this will all disappear tomorrow. It's recognizing that I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't stand up for other people that looked like me. So part of that's channeling of guilt. But the other part is that we have seen that diversity and inclusion has not solved this issue of racism, of racial inequity, because what happens is we want to focus on other people because, we've got to do more than one protected characteristic, which I keep hearing all the time. So in that, who gets to look out for Black colleagues in the workplace? Who gets to look out for potentially my children as they grow up and enter the workplace? So that's why I can still be as tenacious as I am. Probably too much for many people. I swear too much. Swear too much. I won't give it a rest. So how many people message me and tell me when I'm going to give it a rest? But that's how I got here, and I'm staying here. So it is intentional. It's very deliberate, and and I'm also flying the flag of somebody that's, I represent every statistic probably known to humankind, and I have found a way to do this my way. I've found a way to bring people a little bit closer to this issue. Not everybody's happy, but that's all right. I've stopped being worried about that. And provided I can look myself in the mirror and be proud of what I'm trying to do, sometimes failing miserably, but I'm doing my best, then I'm all right with that. So I don't know how long an origin story is meant to be, Julie, but I feel like that is enough. Do you know what I mean? Before I start then talking about my kitchen, the air fryers, the kids, and all the rest of it. So I feel like that's probably enough to hit people with on of a Wednesday evening
You
in our
de-
time.
yes, you definitely have started the conversation. I can see, as I said, from the audience, a lot of our people are here from the Caribbean. I see Jamaica in the house, St. Lucia,
Yes.
Barbados is in the house,
Yes.
but I also see Canada. I also see the UK. So this is going to be a very good time for us to have this conversation. And I love all the things that you said in terms of what inspired you to start this conversation. Now, I think a couple months when I first started my journey of understanding what it is to be Black in America, because I know what it is to be Black in the UK. I was born in Manchester. I've experienced
Mm,
racism.
mm.
I know what that's like. But from a US perspective, in the workplace as HR professionals, listening to those conversations last year was a huge eye opener for me. And I remember one lady saying in a group that I was sitting in about being complicit. Being complicit for the longest time of hearing people say things that were not inclusive, that were racist, and not stopping them. Being in HR and not saying, hey, like that is not acceptable. That's not, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that. And from a Caribbean perspective, I feel that because even though our Black is the majority, we still have people of different ethnic groups and cultures here setting up shop and being born here as well, and still it's being exposed to some form of racism or the other from people within our countries. And I love what you said about not being complicit anymore. When did you know? I mean, we have a list of questions, but I feel like just what you said alone is going to start me on a spiral of asking you other questions. But when did you first experience that? What was the situation where you felt like something happened and you knew it was wrong, you knew it was racist, but you never called it out?
I don't think there was anything specific, and the reason why I say that is because there were so bloody many
Yeah,
incidences that you just, you like I said, you just end up turning the other cheek. You carry on. Whether it was I was the recipient of of racism, of prejudice, of stereotypes of people taking the mick out of my hair and the way that I would laugh because I've got quite a Caribbean in it. Because you know how we
no,
like to
we
laugh,
don't get that.
laugh hard,
But
isn't it?
people tell me about that. People tell me about that all the time,
Right.
all the time.
Right, because we have to,
We
there's
don't
like,
get
but
me.
even that, was like parody of, and what people also don't aren't always cognizant of is when you're the only one for whatever reason, but particularly when you're the only one because of your skin color, and that you're in an environment or a country that has perceptions about who you are based on their perception about all of us. Do you know what I mean? So we don't get
Yeah,
to be just Julie. I don't get to be
no.
just Shereen.
We
We
are
have to
you
be
people.
right. We have to be representatives of Black people,
Mhm.
and we carry all of that. So you end up staying quiet because the reality is, who are you going to talk to? Like, who, realistically, if you're going to go to a HR team, and let's imagine that they're majority white and they're looking at you and then they're giving it they didn't mean it. Are you sure you're not being sensitive? Are you sure it's not just a compliment?
Mm,
So we're conditioned by that. So what happens? We stop speaking up because what's the point? And then even when we do, there is so much fanfare with it all that we end up either feeling like we're the aggressor
yeah.
rather than the victim.
Mhm.
And then we are also told, well, there's nothing that can do because there's not enough proof, or so and so is a good performer, or so and so is really senior, or in all honesty, like, we could do something, but you have to think about your career here, and are you sure you want to do this? So there's an
Mhm.
implied threat there, or we end up leaving.
Yep. Yep.
So there's so
Mhm.
many of these realities, and I would love to tell people that a year plus down the line, even since all of the protests of last year, that's changed. That hasn't changed for many colleagues.
No.
It hasn't changed, that because they're still, some of them are still working within spaces where they feel that we need to move on from the conversation about racism now, because like, we've been doing it for a year, everyone's bored, fatigued. What about everybody else? We've got all the protected characteristics to look after. And
Mm.
this is why we've been going in this circle. For how many years have we been trying, our grandparents, the different civil rights movements, different protests globally? It's because it just keeps going, because we as individuals don't want to do the work,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's difficult. It's not easy.
It's definitely not easy. And I think that as you focus on fighting for racial inequity in the workplace and, globally, I think what you have started, whether you realize it or not, is not just about a workplace movement. It is a global movement. It is a life movement of, we really need to change this dialogue and we really need to remove the stigma. But again, I think one of our members of the audience here, Tracy Fuller, she's saying, again, similar to you, fighting about this for 20 years, and having to deal with all of these wrongs, battling every single day. And she said she's fought for Black professionals of all ages for over 20 years. You can really relate to that.
Mm.
When did your dialogue start to change as an HR professional and you started to recognize, look, this is where I need to focus. This is where I need to channel my energy because we need to change this in the workplace. When did you decide this is where I need to be?
To be fair, I'd left the corporate world by then. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't ever in that space. I mean, to be honest, like every so often I get somebody coming to knock on my door to ask if I want to take this job or this job. And I'm like, good luck. Listen, they'd sack me the way I am right now. Can you imagine? Like, I've had all this freedom and then what do they want me to do? Like, you got to give me the earth and then some before I would even, do you know what I mean? So, and so I had the privilege of being able to leave the corporate world. And then when, but even at the point that I started doing these videos, Julie, I was thinking, well, nobody's going to hire me in a month of Sundays to do anything. And I said to my partner, we just got to, batten down the hatches. But I said, I've got to do this, And so even as I started my videos, because in my mind, I was not going to get work because I'm now the stereotype of Black woman talking about racism, right?
Yeah.
In the UK, we don't like that.
No.
I had already been round Morrison's, Sainsbury's and Asda to find out if they had 20-hour contracts, because I would rather have done that and stacked shelves, literally, than go back to the corporate world, because I thought, I'm not doing it. Because I can't even pretend anymore that I want to integrate. I can't pretend I want to assimilate. I also can't pretend that when certain things are happening, that like it doesn't bother me or it's not right. And I don't want to be the one that is, you have the quiet conversations and I know it's really bad and, and then you're expected just to carry on like nothing happened. I didn't even want to put myself back in that space again. I'm not saying everybody's in that space, but that was my experience. I've seen, it's not just about racism. I've seen bullying, I've seen sexism, I've seen, all the isms.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, if I was ever going to do something, I have to have the power to change it. So, and that's part of the challenge with HR is more often than not, we don't have the power as a profession because we are between the rock and a hard place, because we're there to do the bidding of the leadership teams, aka the employer, but we're also have to advocate and support and protect the well-being of our people. And people who are not within HR don't understand that dynamic. They think it's like, oh, HR just shit.
Yeah.
HR is just not doing this. Listen, like honestly, there's people. Listen.
We are in the same boat of, I can't go back to corporate either, because now here I am talking all the time about you people don't have any respect for HR.
Yeah.
How am I going to work in an organization when I know you have no respect for me? You give me no bandwidth, and the bandwidth you give me is like 0 to nothing. Like I can't work in that space anymore. Tell the people, because I know these are
listen, I think. And listen, don't get me wrong, like this. So for every that there are, like, hand on my heart, and I can categorically say this, and this is not under a banner of like, oh, not everybody, like everyone says, it's not all HR people. I'm not even saying that. But what I'm saying is there are people who are fighting the good fight, because don't forget, we've got to shoulder all of the BS, right? Plus, if you're of a marginalized or minoritized community for whatever reason, you're also shouldering that treatment as an individual as well. So there is something, I think it was Tracy that you pulled up before. There's something about being a Black person and a Black woman in HR. Imagine those multiple identities that we have, but also multiple identities that don't work in our current society, because we're dealing with patriarchy, we're also dealing with racism.
Mm-hmm.
And now imagine if you've got other identities or other characteristics associated, that all of that is compounded, with
Yeah.
race being the one that people most struggle with.
Yes.
So we've got all of that. So we are often even the lone voice, even within our own team.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that dynamic. So you're trying to fight for your place and ensure that you're safe as an individual, but you're also trying to advocate on behalf of the colleagues, but you're also trying to potentially deal with the fact that you've got leadership teams who don't value you because of whatever reason, or
Yeah.
your profession. So we're
Mm-hmm.
always pushing or
In
pulling, and we're trying to find our way. And
yeah.
then on the outside, it looks like, well, HR ain't doing shit, or they don't care,
Yeah.
you know?
You
And I,
mentioned something very relevant there as well about at some point in time you experienced burnout as a result of it because it was just
yeah,
too much.
I was burnt out. I was like, I'm not going back to this. I couldn't even, I was like I'm done. I don't even know what I'm doing next, but I'm done. Like I can't keep, and I can't keep putting my system through that. I've been really unwell years before I had cancer, and I know that's to do with the lifestyle of pressure and the work that I was doing and the way
Yeah.
that I was working. So I got to the point when I just thought, Julie, I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. So
And I
I'd
totally
rather work less, for people that value, my input on what I really care about, which is fundamentally about people achieving and exceeding their potential, no matter
yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
It just so happens that now I channel that from an equity perspective to solve a very specific problem. But I've always been about the underdog, or because I've been the underdog, still overlooked and underestimated, even with the stuff that I do now. But I'm not
Yeah.
driven by that.
No.
It's to help these organizations and provide spaces where people don't have to go through what we've gone through,
Yeah.
just to make them feel like they belong. Like, why is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Such a valuable fight, and with such great intention. And I want to touch, which brings me to my next question.
Mm.
Now, you started this journey, like you said, not knowing what was next, not knowing what you were going to do. But then eventually along the way, you give birth to HR Rewired. What does that, describe that journey of coming to, this is the business, this is what I'm creating, this is how I'm moving forward, this is what it looks like.
Well, there was no template. This is what it was like. Because I'm one of these most impulsive people ever. I was like, oh, this is a great idea.
Let's just do it. What?
Yeah, if I'd have known, like, listen, I would have been like, so even the name for the business came about 3:00 in the morning. And I was like, because my thing was always, and it's funny, isn't it? Because there's so many similar threads now, where even when I say it out loud, but it was always about this idea of being unexpected, seeing HR differently. We all know the kind of the anecdotal stories about HR, how HR is perceived, but there was probably also an element of me in that, rewired, being not what people expect. Like, even the stuff I do now, I'm not what people expect, like, at all. And I'm all right with that,
Yes.
but I'm 40 years old now, so it's taken me till I'm 40 or 13. I was getting there 39, 40. I was like, fuck it, I'm just here now. I'm just going to do it. It's taken me all that time. Now, my argument is, even if you use me as an example, like, all of that wasted potential in a corporate setting, this is what happens when you marginalize and exclude people, is, for whatever reason, is you're missing opportunities where they can realize their potential, be amazing, live their purpose and contribute. And also you as the organization, because we can't get away from the fact that we all live within a capitalist society, but you as the organization benefit from that. And we've lost that because we've just been happy with homogeny. We've been happy with the same. We've been happy with people we feel safe around because they look like us, because their experiences are similar, because they're not seen as the wild card for their difference. And we've allowed those to perpetuate even within HR. you know. So even those of us who are of these marginalized identities, either from a numbers perspective, or, you know, as somebody said before about, you know, use the example of being complicit, we never pushed against that. But also, how do
So,
you push against a structure that is so embedded within society? So you're just a cog in the wheel. So what do?
mm-hmm,
You know?
mm-hmm. It really is a struggle. I think that Tracy is really resonating with this conversation
Tracy,
because
Tracy, we should have had you here, because I would have been like,
yes,
yes, Tracy,
yes,
come preach,
Tracy's like
girl.
again. She's like Black women in HR. You're like the help, the maid, making everything right while you're dying inside.
Oh, that's
Wow,
what I'm
that's how.
saying.
Yeah, expecting you to be happy all the time. That's why we are burnt
Smiling.
out. Speak about health. It's a stress in the workplace. This racial injustices. Yes, yes. Talk to Tracy. Talk to
Listen.
Tracy.
Come and work with me, Tracy. It's much
But
better on this side.
Tracy,
But
you
no,
just
but
got a
she's
job offer, right?
but honestly, this is exactly it, because we if we haven't as a community dealt with the impact of how we've been treated, like I call it compound effect of racial trauma, there
Mm-hmm.
comes a point where we're giving when we don't have anything left for ourselves.
Yeah.
So doubly,
Mm.
we're feeling the oppression twice over,
Yes.
you know, and then we're expected to be part of the solution, but also we're impacted, you know, to Tracy's point about racial injustice, and you've got the stress
Yeah.
of all of that. And also, if you're in an environment where people aren't really leaning into doing anything differently,
Mm-hmm.
or they're looking at you as the one Black person to fix all of this racism stuff,
Yep.
that's even more burden on top of stuff that's already there. Like, who do you talk to when
Yeah.
they're expecting you to just get on with it because they're paying you, not being cognizant of the impact that that's having? Or if your fellow HR colleagues who don't look like you also don't see a problem, or they're tired and fed up,
Oh,
or they want to talk about return to work or
yeah.
COVID, they want to separate all of this because they've had enough, because it's too
Yeah.
difficult.
Yep.
You know, they want it all to go away. Like, how do you keep going
Yep.
without it being an impact on yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm. It really is compounded, as you said, as we continue to work and do the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. But then on top of that, we have to deal with racial trauma. That's that's huge. Like, who do we talk to? Like, besides, the cat, the dog. Like,
Well, that's the thing, and that's so even like the beautiful thing about me, like my personality is such that everyone thinks I'm really extroverted. I'm actually not. So I'm like a halfway sociability. So I can sometimes get my energy from people, but only a little bit. But I also get my energy from silence. Video is a beautiful thing because they don't talk back.
exactly.
So they don't talk back to you, right?
Yep.
So of
Yep.
course everybody, there's nobody in my space, there's nobody. But I think there's also something about my openness and transparency in sharing all sorts of my random thoughts. Like, some of it you can absolutely attribute and go, right, this is about workplace, it's about organizational culture, it's about all of that stuff. But other stuff can be about the universe, it can be about, just thoughts I'm having about reconciling my identity and what it means, and just moving into my next phase of being and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the freedom that comes with being able to be yourself.
Yeah.
But also, if I share that, then if you're also not wanting to be put in a box, if you're also not wanting to be pigeonholed, if you're also fed up with the BS, then it just helps to see I am a super regular person. I'm not famous. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not, I'm just a mom of 2 kids out here in these streets trying to do what I can.
Yeah.
So there is inspiration, I believe, in my normalcy, meaning I am so normal. I am just like you.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? It just so happened there was a point in time where, for whatever reason, my voice just permeated all of the noise.
Yeah.
And like, who knows why? There's lots of people who who've been talking and doing stuff since George Floyd. I don't know why that is, but then I use that as a way to say, this is my journey, so you can come along with me and you go on your journey.
Exactly.
But
We want to do something else. It's like a dead stop. No, that's not what people want to do. And how do you get past the fear? Because at some point, you know, as we go through and experience these things, like what really got you past the fear of not stepping out and saying something to get into the point of stepping out and saying, right, enough is enough. I have to say something. What got you past that, since you're not an extrovert out there voicing yourself? How did you get past that?
I think what I'm like a super independent, very, you know, I've got to be in the driver's seat. So I'm like one of those, you know, when they say like natural born leaders, to be fair, that is me. Do you know what I mean? So I'm very task focused, very future orientated, so all of those things. But the reality is, with everything that's happening, we're not safe even in our silence. Right? So we're not safe anyway.
No, no.
Right? So there's that.
I've heard so many people say, if you're silent, you're complicit.
Yeah, right.
And if you're not silent, you're just too loud.
Right. Exactly. So there's still an element. We're not safe anyway. So our silence is affording us a level of protection that actually doesn't exist. Right. So that's point one. But the second point is, if we continue to say nothing, we feed into those people who do not want to do anything, who use our silence as a justification for not doing anything.
Yeah.
And then we have nobody to blame but ourselves. Now, equally, I understand that, you know, it's not easy for everybody to speak out. But actually, if there's enough of you doing it, like we said, look how many times I share examples of employee activism and collegiate action coming together. So if there's enough of you and you're smart and strategic about how you do it, you don't have to be literally on your own. The fear factor is, though, that some of us just don't want to be the first.
Yeah.
But if you're not the first, then nobody has the opportunity to come behind you, because they're still waiting for somebody else to be the first, you know?
Woo! That is powerful. Say that again, Shereen, please. Do you remember what you said?
No, listen. You know, that's true though. If I didn't do what I did and consistently show up, if you don't do what you did, there are people who are watching what you're doing, Julie. You don't know who they are, but they're watching what you're doing. And because you're doing what you're doing, they're going, I can do what she's doing. I can probably do a better job. Bring it. Because we need more of us out here in this space, right? Somebody can see what I do and they go, oh my gosh, she's so regular. She's so, you know, listen, if I can be almost this time last year, driving my little Honda around to the supermarket to go and earn, like, I don't even know, what is it, like £12 an hour or whatever minimum wages in the supermarket to stack shelves. That was last year.
Yeah.
Right, let me be crystal clear. That was last year. So you might see all of the stuff that I do here, but I had to start and be unafraid to go, if that's what I've got to do to feed the family, that's fine. I mean, as it is, that's clearly not happened. My business is very successful and off it goes, but that's not the point. Yeah. The point is, I was willing to go. I said to my partner, I'm not, if this is what I've got to do, you just got to find a way. We will find a way. The universe will provide. I'm like, it's my favorite saying, universe will provide in some way, shape or form. Exactly. Providing you're moving in alignment with your highest purpose. So what is your highest purpose? And whatever decision you make is going to help you get closer, even if at the moment in time it doesn't look like it. It looks like you've got to sacrifice everything. It looks like, but sometimes you have to lose to win. No sacrifice.
Tracy just said Jesus.
I'm sorry, Tracy. I'm just hitting you like on a real one today, but this is how I am. Just to be clear, this is how I am. This is how I am.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you said what you said, because I think at the end of the day, sometimes when people look at us and they go like, I really admire you, I love what you do. And I'm just like, I keep saying to myself, listen, I am the same latchkey kid from Manchester with 3 children, just trying to survive, and trying to make life happen. I just decided that I wasn't going to stand for people disrespecting me as an HR professional any longer. And I was going to clear up those misconceptions, and I was going to set the record straight, and I was going to support my HR community, because we are out here doing the work. And I just felt like something has to change. I can't continue to have CEOs belittle me and belittle the people who work with us and who work in this space. Like, I can't do that anymore. And very similar to you, I said to my husband, look, this is my journey now. This is the path I'm on. I'm going to do lives. I'm going to write books. I'm going to run a consultancy. I'm going to coach HR professionals, and whatever happens, happens. But, I need to know that you have my back. And he said, yeah, I have your back. And here we are today. But, Still, if I had to pump gas, I would do it.
Listen,
If it's going to help me push the agenda
110%.
along. Absolutely, absolutely. And I really feel that it is important for us as HR to recognize that our voices united matter. My dad was Jamaican, passed away 4 years ago, but my dad, I remember my dad coming to Barbados one time, and he said to me, listen, we were in a landlocked situation where we were living, and my dad said, no boy, if this was Jamaica, we would have done bust down this fence. Nobody could block us from getting to our home. And it just made me think of that community sense. Like my dad's side of the family or Jamaican side of the family, very one voice, big voice. But everybody's gonna stick together, one way or the other. And I feel like as HR, as you said, if we come together, if we stick together, if we use our voice together, if we're strategic about it, we can make waves, and that's what we're here for, right?
Absolutely. And I do also think, there are some people who just want to get their head down, right? Some people who work in HR just think, I just want the easy life. They can't, they struggle with the changing landscape of HR. So now all of a sudden, I've got to factor in social justice, so diversity and inclusion isn't enough. Like, yes, you've got to factor in social justice. I've now got to think about, what are we specifically doing to support the transgender community to making life welcome? Maybe we've got to think about ageism. Maybe we've got to really think about disability, like really think about it, and all these different things. And we've also got to continue leading the business in the change, because the business is now looking to like getting whiplash and go, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So you've now got to lead that, because they don't know. But also potentially, you are also holding your own biases, your own discriminatory behavior, your own. So you have to also step into your truth and say, okay, if I look myself in the mirror, before I can educate the leadership team on what they should be doing, before I can be standing up here and preaching, what is the work that I'm doing on myself to also unlearn some of those unhelpful behaviors where I have been complicit? It's not about a fault thing. About recognizing that there's work to do. Because the HR people that I'll be really honest, that I don't have any time for, are the ones that claim to me that they know everything that there is to know, and walking encyclopedia of stuff, they've got nothing left to learn. But also there is no hint of culpability or accountability with any of this stuff, because that tells me that you're not willing to learn. No. And also that tells me that's a blind spot for you. We've always got to be students. We've all in life, you've got to be students, and you can't do that. That means you're never creating space for new information, for new experiences, and therefore, how good can you be at how good can any of us be at our job, no matter what profession, if you are unwilling to learn and or willing to see alternative viewpoints through experiences that don't match your own. Like, I'd say that even as a Black woman, who is marginalized and minoritized in society, but there are still other communities who I can be advocating for. There are other people who have experiences that I can also learn from. If I close my head to that, how effective can I be, and how much impact can I really have if I feel like I know it all? I'm still learning. I just happen to share it publicly.
It's the truth. And the willingness to unlearn is really important.
Absolutely, because if you don't have that, whether that's not there in your CEO, in your leadership team, whether that's not there in your HR professionals, like I'm very polite, but I say to people, listen, if I've still got to convince you that racism is a thing, if I've still got to convince you that sexism is a thing, that ableism, or if I've still here, despite everything that we know, if I've got to convince you that climate change is still something we should be concerned about, consumerism, okay, outside of the workplace, but these are things, that poverty. You've got people in parts of the world living on less than £5.60 a day. If I've still got to convince you, me and you can't deal.
Yeah.
Go and put me somebody else who says, you know what, I recognize this, so we need to find our way of making a difference for our colleagues, for our communities, for our and we want to be good global citizens. They're the people that I want to work with. Even if you're not perfect, it doesn't matter. We can get you there because you've got the intent. If you're still telling me that your proverbial is on point, like, we'll meet again later.
You are so right, and I've seen that a lot over the last couple months, since George Floyd's death and Breonna Taylor and so many others. And I really feel that it is important for us to just recognize when it's the right person for us to be having this conversation with, and when we know that it's going to be a waste of time, and being able to differentiate the difference between those conversations and be unapologetic about
But
saying,
the reality is,
move
we
on.
know. Like Julie, anyone that tells me I wasn't sure, like, listen, we know your spidey senses, your instincts, everything
Yeah,
tells you.
tingle.
Your whole, your if even in your body language, you might get a pit at the, in your stomach, or your heart starts palpitating, or you feel a little bit hot, a little bit. There's so many physical symptoms that will explain our discomfort in certain situations. It's
Hmm.
up to us to decide what we do about it, but understand that if we don't do something about it, that energy's got to go somewhere, and what you're doing is you're internalizing it, which therefore means that you will manifest physical ailments because of the fact that you're putting your system under
Under
so much stress.
stress.
Right. Look how many people have, on the back of COVID, who, how many, Black people are now having to seek support for their mental well-being. It's
Yeah,
because it's been ignored.
yeah.
It's not brand news. It's not just because
No,
something happened. It's accumulation, and
exactly.
we've opened Pandora's box and gone, oh my goodness, like I've not even cared for myself.
Yeah, the manifestation now is unreal, completely unreal. I want to ask you this, Sharina. It's not in my list, but it's come to mind. Like, one of the things that I see a lot of HR professionals talking about on social media, especially those in diversity, equity, and inclusion, is that they found out in their organizations that they have been a tick the box hire. It's like,
Oh, really? So they're now starting to clock that.
mm,
I could have told them that long time, but anyway.
for those people who are still processing that, what advice do you have for them? What words of, if any, do you have?
Run, run, run. But honestly, like, run,
Yeah,
run. And I tell you what, this was always going to happen. There's so many people that called it. I think looking at, there's already some stuff starting to come out now. It will be tracked more, I think, by the time we get to the end of the year, when you start to look at the tenure,
yeah,
turnover rates of people hired into diversity and inclusion, and the rest of it is. The reality is that not every organisation, clearly,
yeah,
but with some organisations who aren't willing to do the work, this is a way of abdicating responsibility. I'll just give it to somebody else to do. Even better if that person is a person of colour, because we don't really talk about that enough, but we should
no,
do.
yes,
So a person of colour who is also impacted by a lot of this work is brought into an organisation that probably they may be one of a few, or a few in their seniority. They're
uh-huh.
expected to fix it. They're also expected to have all the answers, because there's an assumption that being Black means that you're an expert in equity and
Hmm.
racism. So they've got that on top. And then they don't know how to say, well, actually, like, my experience has been broad, because, like, most of the 90% of the profession, we've been focused on other characteristics and identities that have nothing to do with race, because otherwise we would not all be here still
Hmm.
reacting, right?
Yeah,
So they can't say that, and so, but then there's the other piece about the fact that they're not given. So if you're not reporting into the CEO or somebody very senior on the board, you've got a question.
yeah,
If they're not giving you your own budget that you can manage to make a difference
yeah.
for marginalized and minoritized colleagues, whether it's about race, whether it's about other characteristics, that you got a question. If they hired you on the back of Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, etc., and then that you've gone in, and then they're not even saying the word racism or anti-racism, and they're already talking about moving on to other things, you've got a question.
Hmm.
And if it feels like a lot of the initiatives that you're doing are benefiting still the majority, because there is still discomfort and a reluctance to address the minorities who are actually the global majorities, you've also got to question.
Yes,
So whether you're in HR or whether you're DEI, you've got to ask yourself these questions. In the same way that I say to leadership teams is, if you ask yourself those questions and you've got the answers, you've got to decide what you want to do with the answer.
yeah,
It's no different.
Intentional about it.
Right. It's no different than when, I will say to leaders, if you feel like you've got senior managers, middle managers who are not pro equity, who are not pro anti-racism,
Yeah.
you can't not ask them the question because you're worried about the answer. But we all know the fear about that is that when you ask the question and you get the answer, you have to then do something about it. You cannot claim ignorance. This is the same thing.
Yes, you are so right. I see you've got Tracy on a roll today. But I see also Dolly is saying in agreement with you, run the organization
Listen,
beyond change.
I would be saying, listen, Dolly, leg it, right? As we say up north, leg
Yep,
it.
leg it.
Yeah, leg it. Just go. Grab your stuff and go.
Yep, definitely. I see Gail chiming in and she has a question. She's saying, having to convince people about things that are obvious to everybody else, that's so challenging and frustrating. How do you deal with an HR professional working on your team who believes bullying and racism is just how it is, that there's nothing that can be done to change it?
Run.
Say to that, Shereen.
Run, Gail. Run. And honestly, the reason why run, and honestly, the
Everyone's
reason why everyone's running, just run. Do you know what I mean? Just put on your Usain Bolt shoes and just run. But the reason why I say that is because there are so many other organizations, like I can't name names, so I'm not going to, but I do know there are so many other organizations who genuinely want to affect change, right?
Yep.
So this is about anyone who's into like strengths finders, right? So the whole premise behind strengths finders is you're better off, you can make bigger gains if you work on your strengths rather than, it's better to make bigger gains if you work on your strengths rather than marginal gains if you work on your weaknesses. Right? The whole graph and all of that sort of stuff. This is the same principle. So if you're in an environment where that is going on, Gail, my question to you is, how effective do you think you could ever be at your job, really, if that's the backdrop that you're working within?
Yeah.
But imagine if you took your expertise, your passion, your purpose, your brilliance, and you went to an organization who, whilst they haven't got all the answers, there is an intent for them to do better, and they're just looking at you to give them direction. And you're within a team that largely, because it's never perfect, but largely they're all going, yeah, we don't know, but we need to do more. Imagine the gains that you could make in that organization and the difference that you can make, but also how better it would be for your health. That's all I would say. Like, I wish I'd have done a little bit more than that, right? Because we're always fleeing sometimes as well. We're always fleeing organizations without making a plan about where we're trying to get to. Yeah. So before you run, make your plan.
Yes.
Run, or make your plan about actually what would make you feel like you're doing a great job. What are some of those environmental factors that are absolutely essential to you? What is the way that you like to work? What do you need to have from a line manager? What do you need to have from a board? What do you need to have? And be critical, right? Be critical when you're going to these other organizations. Like LinkedIn is amazing. You can find anybody that works for any company that you're thinking of joining. Ask them questions. These days, we want to be everyone wants to be telling everybody not to bother coming. Don't bother.
Yeah, don't do it.
But you can ask, questions just to give you a little bit of an insight. But there is absolutely nothing to be gained other than you losing your sanity by staying in environments like that. Because let me tell you, those people are not going anywhere. Because we always think, don't we? We always think, oh, they'll leave. They'll never go. People like that will never go because they're wedded to familiarity. They're wedded to the way things are. They're wedded to things not really changing, so they don't have to do too much work.
And they're embedded to the toxicity that they've been allowed to spew in their organizations, right? I can't believe that the time has gone. We've got 12 minutes.
Oh, sorry, look.
We've got 12 minutes.
Dolly's saying peg it. Yeah, that's it. We say leg it up north, peg it. Is it same thing?
Yeah. We've got, this happens to me every single time, Shereen. The audience, we have an amazing audience, both of us on either of our platforms. And I know these people were going to come and ask you some serious questions and just engage in a great conversation. But I want to ask you this, though, because I feel like we need to know. What are some of the hard lessons that you've learned in your journey to date as you continue to advocate? What's been the hardest?
Julie, well, as you know, I practice a brand of real talk, right? So I'm gonna give you enough real talk here. All skin folk are not kin folk.
Oh, wow. Mic drop.
Right. And that's had to be a hard lesson for me to learn, because I'll be completely honest, and as I can be with, with this extended family online.
Yeah.
I I assumed, after everything that we experienced, as we said, last year, and everything that's happened since, that there was a collective will and willingness to do what I call, in inverted commas, step off the plantation field. That's my phrase, by the way, so you
Yeah.
don't, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean.
And that's not been the case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something for me to really, and the reason why I say that is because I assumed that there was an alignment of what anti-racism and racial equity needs to look and feel like above and beyond just the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was quickly shown that actually there's other agendas, which is fine, but they don't align to mine.
Yeah.
So, so that's,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the other lesson, however, counter lesson I learned is that allies and advocates don't always come in guises of people that you like and get on with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have to stop assuming that familiarity, friendliness, and all the rest of it equates to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
There are some
Yeah.
people that my personality don't match with them, but are they in alignment from a values perspective with?
Yes.
Absolutely. We don't
Yeah.
have to be best mates. I've learned that. We don't have to be best mates or
No.
busy mates, as we say up north. Do you know what I mean? That's from the Liverpool. We don't have to be busy mates. We don't have to be busy mates to be, so that's the counter
Yeah.
piece to that,
Yeah.
to that. What else have I learned? To be more challenging and assertive in asking questions to ascertain whether there are aligned interests or conflicts of interest. And the reason why I say that is because I have so many people who want to partner, want to collaborate, want to do this with me, want to do that with me. And so because I go, oh yeah. And then I quickly realize, and then I do a little bit of research, and I'm like, hang on a minute, we ain't on the same
page.
We're not on the same page. There's
No.
some things I see you popping up and saying certain things, and no. So
Yeah.
we're not aligned from that perspective. So for me, I've been a lot more ruthless is probably not the right word, but I'm happier to say no.
Yeah.
I'm also a lot more confident to ask questions. Call it take it or leave it energy. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, later.
Yeah.
Honestly, you do you. Wish you the best.
And unbothered
From that point of view. So
yeah.
I've learned that. And the other thing that I've learned is the backlash is real.
Oh.
The backlash is real. So let me just be crystal clear. We see every single day an example of how there is a resistance to change that means that equity and equality is afforded to global majority, people of color, black and brown people all over the world. We can see it every single day. The question isn't about whether we spend all of our time getting into all of that. The question is about what we're prepared to do differently to support the individuals who are trying to make the real changes, even if they don't come in the guises that we're traditionally used to looking at.
Yes.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
And my proverbial has not been on point. So who are we supporting, who are we donating to, who are we amplifying, other than who are we opening doors to, where there's an alignment, who are we giving opportunities to, creating opportunities
for
right.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's a lot more lessons that you have learned.
Oh God, I could write a whole book on that alone, but that's enough.
Well,
that's come to my mind.
I think that book is necessary. Shereen. So just putting it out there.
No, I am writing a book. It's just not on that. That's coming.
That's okay. That's just like
that's book number 3.
Very good. Right. I just want to make sure it's there. I want to make sure it's on the bucket list. I want to ask you this. What's the most rewarding experience that you've had so far on this journey?
I think it's more a collection of experiences. And it sounds really weird because I actually don't have time to always give a really detailed response.
Mm-hmm.
But when I still get people who found the things that I say, the way that I say it, and the way that I show up, and they tell me the stories of how something I said on a video at this point, at this timestamp, meant that they went off and did, and now this and now this has happened. Like, I'm always blown away by that, because like some stuff I don't know, because they don't necessarily say so, and they shouldn't have to. So when they take the time to reach out and say, you will never know this, but I listened to this, or you said, or you wrote, and it really got me, and therefore this has happened. So, you know, I just want to fill in the blanks, you know, whatever it is that they want me to know. Like, so that's always been the most most rewarding collection of experiences. Because most of my working life, Julia, I've just felt like I was ignored.
Yeah.
You know, so it's still quite strange to me. It's still quite strange to me to be in this, like, my kids don't treat me any differently. My partner doesn't treat, you know.
But that's it. That's
still normal. We're still normal. But in this space, and there's always a part of me that says, how is it I managed to do things on a massive scale? So even when I was in the four walls of an organization, they still used to walk past me like I don't exist.
Yeah.
Literally. So that's why those experiences is you know, making a difference in a way that I never had that feedback throughout my career, and I'm getting it from strangers in a weird, I know that sounds really weird, but I'm getting it from people I don't know who tell me I'm making a difference. So it actually means more, because this is not about familiarity.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. I can totally relate to that, because I experience it as well. I want to give some time for your upcoming conference. I know you have a conference coming up. I enjoyed the conference, what you did last year.
Oh no, this is even bigger. This is bigger, better, more stressful. Oh Lord.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Prepare so yes, people for what's coming, please.
Yes, I will. So 23rd of September. Where are you if you're not hanging out in the virtual sphere with me at the conference? So it's called Advancing Racial Equity, Moving Beyond the Conversations. It's a mixture of panels, keynotes, DJ sets, and just learning, collaboration, noise, tech, like the whole experience. But it's basically for anyone who's ready to do more than just talk, anyone who just wants to be in a space of surrounded by other people who are also trying to affect change in their organization. You know, I've got some CEOs coming to talk about racial equity. It never happens in the UK, because it's always like, you know, spokespeople. This is so that we've gone direct to source. Very fabulous people coming.
Nice.
Got some guests from the US, really inspirational guests from the US. I'm so pleased that we're buzzing them in. I've got Dr. Shola Moss, Shogbamimu, coming to do a keynote. Yeah, listen, you know she ain't playing. So yes, she's coming. Yes, she's coming.
Wow.
I've got Renee Carroll, who was the first Black man ever on a UK board back in the day. Super inspired. Like, I spoke to him we spoke for about an hour, but within the first 5 minutes, I was like, right, okay. Renee, can I just ask you these questions? I was like, Renee, why? Blah, 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 blah. So, and he's like executive coach to all of the big, you know, Richard Bransons of the world, and he's done all sorts of stuff, but just an amazing, humble, with it individual. And then, of course, we got Trevor Nelson doing a 45-minute DJ set.
Listen.
So yes. Listen. I'm going to tell you what I'm saying.
I enjoyed the DJ set last year.
Yes. So this is, I know Stacey's back again. Stacey's back. So Stacey she's resident DJ for the day. Trevor Nelson is doing another set. So hopefully Stacey will pay attention to the playlist. I actually want her to play, not the one that she wants to play. So we always have that banter, because she don't want to play some of my tunes.
Oh, like, no. Well, you can't be having that. Can't be having that at all. No. Fix that. You know, one of the things that really moved me about the conference last year is that you didn't just focus on corporate. You focused also on us as Black people and legacy. And I remember there was a conversation that you had with, honestly, I cannot remember his name, and it's going to come to me when I say yes.
Listen, even nearly, so in October, by the time I do the conference nearly a year later, I still have people that message me on Instagram and say, I just like, they might have come across something, but they say, can we just talk about your conversation with Dean? So Dean's organization that he runs, AdPack, they're actually a community sponsor for the event, because the work that they do is super important. So I want to amplify their work. So I've got them, I've got Mentivity, I've got House of St Barnabas in Soho, which is a private members club, but also a homeless charity. I've got Ethnicity Pay Gap with Diane Grayson, and then I've got another project up in Manchester, TAP Project, which is about supporting young people. So
you have to let me know how I can get involved in that.
Yes, I will. I'll connect you.
Yes,
It's a
please.
random story, but one of the individuals who works there, I used to go to uni with. It's such like 6 degrees of separation. It's crazy.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, she's involved in that, so I can up in
Oh,
Manchester. So I can
definitely,
connect you.
please.
So yeah,
Yes. Manchester is home for me, and
yes.
that's where I'm from. That's where I was born,
I
raised.
lived there for a year. I lived in
What?
Sale for a year.
Oh, okay.
Posh.
Mm-hmm. You're up in there.
Yeah, you don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm from Moss Side, love.
Oh, okay. All right then. All right then. Listen, I needed an escort to go down them sides. I wasn't. I was too crew like. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. When I left the UK to move to Barbados, we were living in Stretford, just
Yeah.
around the corner from Manchester United football ground. We've always lived in
Yes.
football
Yes.
grounds.
Yes. Yes.
I remember when Man City was in Moss Side. Now they
Yes.
got big and then moved over. But yeah,
Yes.
they were
Yes.
from
Because
Moss Side.
I used to work for Panasonic. I think were they in not Cheadle? Where were they? Like they were like you had to cross through town to the other side.
Cheetah Mill.
Yes, that's it. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, I used to go, but I could because I lived in Sale. I could take the metro and just keep going. But I did used to drive through as well of a morning. So yeah,
Oh my goodness! Look,
memories.
you definitely memories. You've turned on my British side today. Shereen, it was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you, and I hope that at some point in time, as you continue to grow, that we can have a second conversation, because I want to know like how we move this forward and what this looks like for you a year from now, 2 years from now. Please stay in touch.
We definitely will. And if you happen, genuinely, Julie, if you happen to come across anybody in your HR circle that wants to do some consultancy work in this space that you rate, do let them know, because like, I can't be putting out ads openly because I get all sorts of people that are not connected. So if you with your HR for work, because having the HR background actually with this sort of work is such a needed dynamic, because you've just got an understanding of the employee life cycle. The other stuff can be taught, but
exactly,
that is like crucial. I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have my HR experience. So
absolutely. I know Tracy is ready. Tracy said she's ready when you told her to run. Ready.
Then she's like, oh no, she's too much. That's too much.
Oh, this is what the community is about. This is what Magnifying HR Voices is about. And I'm so glad that you took the time to be a part of this conversation today, Shereen. I wish you every success. I saw somebody say, oh, Dolly said when she gets paid, she's going and buy a ticket.
Yes, Dolly. Yes.
Listen, I'm going for my ticket as soon as I
listen, don't be messing. Yeah, don't be messing about now. Because you get t-shirts, you get all sorts of freebies, there's all sorts of stuff coming. Are you
sending them to Barbados for me?
I will send it to Barbados for you, don't you? I had to send stuff to America. I had to send one to Sri Lanka, Australia, all over.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so I'm looking forward to that.
There you go.
With that being said, our time is up, Shereen. When I end this broadcast, please don't leave.
Okay.
I just want to tell everybody who is coming up next week. So next week we have Jolene King, my fellow Barbadian, but also living in the UK, and we will be talking about self-care post-pandemic. I think that's a very important conversation, a very interesting conversation. Usually Jolene is somewhere lurking in the comments. If she's not here, that means she's working hard today.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a part of the conversation, just reach out to me. Send me an email. Send me a message on LinkedIn. You guys know I live on LinkedIn. If you message me on LinkedIn, I'll respond faster than if you send me an email. But let's have a conversation. That's all we have time for today on Magnifying HR Voices. Thank you so much, Shereen, for being here.
You're welcome.
And I will see you guys next week when I'm talking to Jolene King, and we're talking about how are you taking care of yourself post-pandemic. Actually, the pandemic is still happening, but how are you taking care of yourself? That's really, really important. So let's talk about that. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.